Hi, and welcome to Psychic Tapestry. I'm Ken Kessler, and she's Toni DeMaio. Hi, Toni.
Hi, Ken. Hi, everybody. Happy
And
Tuesday.
here we are,
Hmm.
live recording this on Tuesday, October 15th. And thanks to those who are here with us. And if you are listening to this later and you'd like to connect, you can find us at facebook.com/psychic tapestry or at psychic tapestry on X, formerly known as Twitter. You can also connect. I thought it was only mobile on your phone, but it looks like pretty much everywhere that you find the podcast, you'll see in the show notes a thing that says send us a text. So you can click that and connect that way as well. If you would like to attend a future taping of the Psychic Tapestry podcast, cool. We'd love to have you. We're here live almost every other Tuesday, depending. It's about to get really busy, so that schedule might get staggered a little bit, but we'll do the best we can. You can find our schedule, our calendar at psychictapestry.com, and it should be the same. It should be the same um, ID number for Zoom for all the shows. So if you don't see the next one posted in there, you could just copy down the member ID or copy and paste it when you open Zoom, and you'll find us that way. Sounds really convoluted, I know, but it works. It really does. So there. Tonight, Toni and I are going to talk about love, but it's not quite that simple. Not that love is simple,
It's not simple, no.
but this is one of the many complications. And Toni was telling me before we got started, this is the number one thing people call her about. It's one of the biggest things people have contacted this show about. It's when love doesn't feel safe.
Right.
And Toni, why don't you dig a little deeper into that?
I would be glad to. I feel like it's an epidemic in our country. And I'm not, there really shouldn't be a gender attachment to this problem, and there really isn't, except that the majority of the calls that I get are from women because the men are uh, getting frightened and being afraid of commitment. And it does seem like an epidemic, but I just had a man call me today about the same thing about a woman. So it goes both ways. But basically, the thing is, when someone has been really badly hurt, usually by a narcissist, or it could be from their childhood, it could go all the way back to childhood. And unmet childhood needs can set up a terrible insecurity in a person if they never seek treatment for it, that can cause them to have issues with all of their relationships, with the ability to trust, and with making a really meaningful connection. So when a person finally falls in love, it can cause that person, instead of having a feeling or a reaction of joy, euphoria, wow, this is great, I'm in love. It's like fearful. They're very fearful. They get anxiety instead, and they may not even understand why. But it's a flashback to when feeling love was not a safe thing to feel because it led to some type of abuse or tragedy or hurt, terrible hurt. So it's really sad, and not feeling safe in the relationship, as Ken said. So if you are the runner and you happen to be listening tonight, what can you do to try to work on your relationship instead of running? Because I do feel that a lot of people would rather not feel anxious or be afraid of love. I think most of us would like to have a nice relationship in our lives. So the first thing is to communicate in a better way. And we're all using text, and text can be misinterpreted very easily, can be very cold, very clinical. We don't get emotions. If people don't use a lot of emojis when they're texting, they can very often offend the person they're texting without even knowing it because it seems very abrupt or rude or whatever. So if you talk face to face instead of texting, this can help create a sense of emotional safety because you make a better connection with your partner when you're talking than when you're texting. And I've had so many people tell me in readings that their boyfriend or their girlfriend never calls. They only text, like sometimes for months, if they're, especially if they're long distance. So, you know, that's a good tool to try to go back to the basics, to the beginning, and communicate face to face. That can help. And then practice self-compassion. Don't beat yourself up. Don't hate yourself more because you have this issue. You have to acknowledge your feelings and don't try to ignore them because even if you have feelings of anxiety over feeling love, that's valid. That's who you are. But you can choose to get help for it, to get counseling, to go to couples counseling with your partner if you really would like to put this together and have a real relationship. But at the very least, practice self compassion and then seek support from friends, family, or therapy. And then also practice self care. Self care and the practice to increase self compassion can help improve your low self esteem. And that usually, as I said, comes from unmet childhood issues. Yeah. Or being verbally, physically abused, mentally, emotionally abused in a relationship or in childhood. So, the next thing to do is just be kind to yourself, remind yourself your feelings are valid and you're a human being and you can own your issue and focus on working on it. You can always make that decision because we all know that our lives move in the direction of our thoughts and our intentions. And if there's something about yourself or your life or your relationship that you feel needs to be changed, you can choose to work on that and make those changes. You have that power. So remind yourself that you have the power. You have personal power. That's an important thing. Now, actively seeking change is a great idea. I mean, that's the hope. And you can work on small changes first and set the intention to do better, to be more present in your relationship. Agree to couples counseling, as I said, because they will give you amazing tools in couples counseling for communication so that everybody is heard, seen, and the counselor will help to bring you together, or he can also help you to separate and detach if that's what's needed. So it's a good place to go for help. Do you have anything you'd like to add, Ken, or any
Well,
questions?
one of the things I think is important is that you need to figure out what your love language is.
Oh, I like that.
And for example, my one of my love languages is food.
Right.
There are a lot of things that I don't know how to do and don't know how to fix. But one of the ways I let you know that I love you is taking you somewhere that you want to go, to your favorite place, or cooking something special for you, or just making sure that you have what you need food wise.
Right.
That's a go-to for me. And I'm sure it has to do with the way I was brought up and
Mm-hmm.
all of that kind of thing. But you have to figure out what that is for you, and then you have to convey that to your partner so that
Mm.
they understand, so that it doesn't get to be we can't afford to eat out all the time, or why are you trying to do this, or why are you trying to okay,
Mhm.
that's how that's how I express my love for you. We don't have to go out to eat, but just that I'm suggesting that we go to your favorite place is my way of trying to let you know that I love you, that
Aw,
I
that's
want to take
sweet.
care of you. And I mean, there are lots of different um, love languages, and I don't think that we all just have one, but you have to figure out what it is that you do or you need that expresses how you feel. Um, Another one is communication, and
Hmm.
not just communication, but being heard.
Oh, yes.
Very important. And they don't have to fix whatever's wrong, just listen.
Yeah.
It's very important to that. That's another one of mine. I don't like to be shut down or dismissed. It hurts.
Yeah.
I don't, I'm not egotistical enough to think that I'm always right, but I like to be heard. I like to be able to express whatever it is that I need to express. Doesn't mean I'm right, but I need to feel like I can do that. And I am very fortunate that I'm in a relationship that I can do that. And
Yes.
if Lisa were here now, she would let you know that I am not nearly always right. But
Nobody is, right?
no, but and 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 that's probably a more common love language than most people think about, that it's just so important for you to feel like you can be heard and that you are heard. So it's very important for you to be able to not try and immediately fix whatever problem might be arising, but just
Mm.
to be able to listen and really hear it. That doesn't mean just sit there and think about something else while they're talking on and on and on and on and on. It means to pay attention. It means to be supportive. It means to hear what they have to say, understand, because that will go so far in helping your relationship when you can try your best to understand where they're coming from and how they feel and why they left the cap off the toothpaste
Mhm.
or why they did whatever else, because those little things build and can cause bigger problems. But if you take the time to hear them, it can make a world of difference. And you got to figure out, you got to let them figure out what their love languages are.
Mhm.
And most people don't know because most people don't take the time to think about it. But if you encourage them to, and they share that with you, you have to let them share it and you have to hear it
Yes.
and you have to accept it. You can't tell somebody that they're wrong.
No.
You're wrong to feel that way.
Mm-mm.
No, this is what's important to me. It's important to me to be able to know that I can express myself to you without you dismissing me or not listening, not paying attention. That's important.
It is. And Ken, that was such a good point. And I'll tell you why. It's a mistake I made in my first marriage 100 years ago when I was a child, child bride at 19. I'm a problem solver. And that's one of my love languages to show people that I love them. I also feed them because I'm Italian. But aside from that, I like to help people solve their problems. And I had no idea until that book came out about men are from Mars, women are from Venus, that it literally can irritate a man terribly and put him off if you try to solve all his problems. And that's the mistake I made in my first marriage. I mean, we had a lot of big problems that would pop up, like about work or jobs or direction, and I would just figure it out and solve it. And my poor husband, I was emasculating him in many ways and didn't realize it. And I didn't realize that for many years later. So it's interesting to look back and see you explained that to everybody, and I love that. So
Well,
it's better just to listen because sometimes people just need to be heard, like you said. They
and
don't want you to figure it out. Just listen.
communication's so important,
Hmm.
and the need to be heard is a big one. And I think that most people, if you stop and think about it, you'll find that that's one of your love languages too. You
Yeah.
need to be heard. You don't need to be uh it doesn't need to be that, okay, what's your little problem? Let me listen. Okay.
Hmm.
Don't you need to, there needs to be mutual respect, and you need to communicate whatever it is that you feel. And most people recognize that they are not at their rational best when they're hungry, when they're tired, when they have
Right.
a cold, that they recognize that sometimes things can get blown out of proportion, but it still is a thing that is weighing on them, and they need to be able to express it, and they need to feel safe that they can do that without without having you look at them and say, well, that's stupid.
Yeah. No, not that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But because all you learn from that is that you're not safe and you can't express
Hmm.
yourself anymore, and you suddenly you're anxious, and you can't, and you feel like you have to hide how you feel, and it's
Yeah.
a relationship destroyer.
Yes. That's another way where people feel unsafe. That's a good point, really. And we were talking about, people who are, who, when they feel love, they run. We call them runners. And if you're in love with a runner or someone that can't feel love without feeling anxiety and wanting to get away from the person or the relationship, there are some things you can do to help yourself too. The first thing that I found in research, which I've had to do for my job anyway, was that you can't panic. It's better if you don't panic. The first, a lot of people get very angry and upset if somebody pulls back and there's no good reason, or if they run from them and hide and don't communicate. But you're actually better off if you can uh, hold yourself in check and not lose your cool and not freak out at all. And it says, don't imagine the worst, because most people will think, oh, there's another woman, there's another man. And often it can just be that this person is either having family issues or they're having a work issue. And that can be the whole reason why they've pulled back. It may not be that they're afraid of love. So you have to kind of proceed cautiously, but definitely work through your feelings and confide in a trusted friend. And that, hopefully you have one that knows how to listen, and that will help you. It'll help to mirror it back to you to see what you're dealing with too. And then focus on yourself, because you can't change anybody else. We all know that. We've all probably tried at some point
Oh yeah.
and we've learned we can only change ourselves. So you have to focus on yourself and your reactions and how you feel about it. And then spend time with friends and family if your loved one has disappeared on you. And don't be hard on yourself. You probably didn't have any part in the creation of these issues, you know? And do not give up on love, because some people get so disillusioned and sad if things don't work out with the one person that they hide from love after that. And believe me, there's more than one soulmate for each one of us. We've talked about that a million times, right, Ken, over the
Yeah.
years. And the guides and angels will bring you a new one. All you have to do is ask. And as far as your angels and guides are concerned, we've said this a million times too, but can't say it enough. If we don't ask, they can't step in, only to
Right.
save your life because of free choice. So you can, and actually, James Van Praagh had shared with me when I took his class that you can ask for a special angel for relationships or for work or for whatever specific thing you need help with. And they'll literally send you an extra angel on your team just to do that. So there are many things you can do metaphysically or, spiritually to help yourself and to help your relationship. Yep, that's basically it.
And, and this has come up so many times.
Yeah.
One of the big reasons that relationships have trouble is that most people don't really know what they're looking for.
Oh, yes.
They just want to be in a relationship. And if you don't know, George Harrison has a great song. If you don't know where you're going, any road will take you there. If you don't know what you're looking for, you're not going to be happy with what you got.
Perfect.
And
Perfect. That's so
I
profound.
mean, I know I have said this a lot of times, but I'm a Virgo and I'm a big believer in lists. And if you are not in a relationship, get a legal pad, start writing down the things, the qualities that you think you're looking for in a partner. Um, every everything can be great big things. They need a steady job. They need a reliable car. They need to have good credit. They need to be kind to animals, all those kind of things, and then down to little things. Um, you want somebody who has brown eyes. You want somebody who's just a little bit taller than you. You want somebody who likes football, or in country music or whatever, everything you can think of. And don't try and knock this out in just one afternoon or one night. Think on it and keep adding page after page, however long it takes for until things aren't coming to you anymore. And then when you have filled up as many pages as you can, go back and cross off the stuff that doesn't really matter.
Mhm.
Does it really matter if he has brown eyes? Maybe it does, maybe it doesn't. Maybe I can cross that off. Does he need to be vegan?
Yeah.
That could be an important thing.
Mhm.
Or it could be a not important thing. But go through and cross off. And once you have done that, you have a list of that shows you what it is you're looking for, and it'll be so much easier to recognize it when you find it because you've thought about it and you have a list, and
That.
you'll be much happier. It doesn't take the magic away, but
Mhm.
it gives you it helps you recognize what it is that you're looking for, because if you don't know, how are you ever going to find it?
I have a little story about that. I didn't have a list a long time ago. I think I was around 50 years old and a little bit older than that, maybe my mid 50s. And I had grandkids and stuff. One of them was little Gabriel. And I started talking to someone on a dating site who had contacted me. I lived in the Pocono Mountains in Pennsylvania at the time. And this man happened to be in Dallas, Texas. Now, he was a very good looking man. He kind of looked like John Forsythe, the actor. If you all remember who that was, maybe you don't, but he was a
Charlie,
very good, yeah, yes, Charlie. He was a very good looking man. And this man was absolutely gorgeous. And we were talking, and I was kind of struck by, his difference. And he was from Texas, and he had a drawl, and he had an interesting life. He actually was psychic and had done remote viewing for the government. And that was really true. And he did work in the courthouse actually at that time. Well, he decided he was going to come to meet me. He got into his truck impulsively after we talked for months, and he drove all the way to the Pocono Mountains. Now, he looked exactly like his picture. I looked exactly like mine. But when we met each other, there was like zero chemistry, number one. And we thought we had fallen in love with each other on the phone, which can happen. That's another pitfall. But the important thing here is without a list and without me knowing what I wanted, I had let him talk and I'd listened. I'd asked him some questions, But there were very important things that I didn't know about him that he revealed 5 minutes after walking into my house. First, he saw my cats and he said, "You have cats?" And I said, "Yep, I have two cats." And he said, "I hate cats. I run over cats because there's too many cats in Texas."
Oh,
And I went, "What?" I'll never forget that. Then he saw a picture of my grandson, who was a little Hispanic boy, and he said, "Do you have a Hispanic kid in your family?" Because he was very upset about border crossings and he did not like Hispanic people because of the border situation in Texas. And my Lord, here I have this man in my house. He was going to stay a week. And he wanted to run over my cats and he didn't like my grandkid. What a
wow.
mess. What a mess. So having a list, I won't tell you the rest of it. It didn't go anywhere. We were both polite to each other and he left halfway through the week. I was tired of sleeping on my couch, which is where he stayed. And he went home and that was the end of that. But the point is, you have to be very careful for what you want because you can get something that you don't want if you
Yeah.
don't know what you want. So I love that you said that. And that's my
Yeah.
big story.
It is so important.
Oh,
I
yes.
know I have mentioned this before. Um, I remember thinking that I was very clever, saying that my motto was walk-ins welcome,
Right.
and that I was looking for somebody who knew me and loved me anyway.
Hmm.
And I thought that that was very clever, but it was honest. And what I came and I got it.
Yeah.
And what I came to realize was that having somebody who knows you and loves you anyway is like saying that they love you in spite of who you are.
Right. Oh,
And it's it's no good. It's
no.
what I found, what I was so lucky to find is somebody who knows me and loves me because of who I am, not in spite of it.
There you go.
And that makes all the difference.
Yes. That's another profound point. I love that. That should be at the top of everyone's list, really.
Yeah, you
Yeah.
want to, you don't want, none of us are perfect. And a lot of times we look at these romantic comedies and it seems like there's more and more of them all the time. And I like a good romantic comedy just as much as anybody.
Yeah.
But there's some unrealistic expectations there because they have, 90 minutes to solve all their problems and fall in love and live happily ever after. And you don't really know if they live
Mhm.
happily ever after. You just assume
Yeah.
that they do. But
Right.
but we think because we've seen those movies and we hear the songs that we're going to find somebody who's perfect for us. And
Yeah,
and there's no such thing as perfect.
for sure.
And you don't want somebody who's perfect. You don't want somebody who's the same as you
Nope.
because you've got every single thing in common. You've got nothing to share. And you don't necessarily want somebody who's the opposite of you because you're going in different directions all the time.
Yeah.
And if you try to figure out somebody who's one or the other of those, you're going to miss out on everything. You just,
Good point.
you need to, you just have to figure out what it is you're looking for
Hmm.
and know that it's not going to be a Hallmark movie and every moment with them is not going to be a sonnet. There are going to be some times where you get on each other's nerves and that's okay. We're all
Yeah.
human. We do that.
Yeah.
Um, but it should be that it's somebody that you can feel safe talking to.
Yes.
I remember having somebody on when we did this podcast on Blog Talk Radio. Somebody called in And we were talking about hopes and dreams, and whatever it was that they wanted wasn't something they could feel safe with sharing with their partner
Right.
because they wouldn't understand or they would think it was silly or something else. And there's a big clue for you. You want
Yeah.
to be you want to be with somebody that you can tell your secrets to, and they're not going to make fun of you and they're not going to belittle you, and they may not, maybe they can help you reach them, or better yet, maybe they can just listen and support you and cheer you on when you get close and pick you up when you stumble
Yeah.
and do the same for them. Even if you don't understand what it is or why that's important to them, that doesn't matter. I had I had worked really hard writing a novel
Mhm.
years ago, and the person that I was in a relationship with didn't care, didn't think it was a big deal.
Oh,
And
wow.
I tried to salvage that relationship, and we went and saw a therapist, and the therapist told her writing a novel and finishing it is a big deal. You should
Hmm.
be happy for him. And her response was, but what if I'm not?
Oh, wow.
Wow is right. What if I'm not? You need to be. This should be your partner. You guys should be on the same team. And
Yeah.
when one of you wins, when one of you does something that they wanted to do, even if it's not something that's in your wheelhouse, you need to, congratulations, go you.
Yeah. Celebrate.
Yeah. And then I would offer to take you out to wherever it is you would like to go to eat.
Yes.
But you need to be able to be supportive, and it shouldn't be, even if it's something that you can't understand. If you don't understand um the need to be creative, the need to try and write something and finish something, even if you don't understand it and you know it's important to them, then it
Yeah,
should be important to you. That's how that should
absolutely.
work.
That
It's
is
not
right.
going to be as important. You can't make it as important, but you need to recognize that it is
An
important.
accomplishment too.
Yeah. And you need to
Incredibly.
be able to share that, and you need to be able to feel safe sharing that kind of thing.
I like that. That's the truth. And then not have people come back later and use information you've given them against you and
Right.
throw it in your face. That's another thing that people sometimes do in relationships. It's so off-putting. It just kills it right there, you know?
Well, it does, because then you become reluctant or even
Mhm.
afraid to share anything because you're worried that it's going to get used against you.
That's right. That's right. I've had that experience. And basically, to move on with our topic too, when should someone decide that it's just not worth trying anymore? When is it okay to give up and move on? And from what I've found, in my work, if the loved one can't handle the love you have to give and continually runs, and it's painful for you, you may have to make the decision to let go of that relationship in order to unlock the life and the love that you deserve. You may have to make that change and then open your heart to a new love. And also, you should end it when the relationship causes more pain than pleasure, or when the trust has eroded from many different avenues, as we just said, like using information against you. That's one way to erode the trust. It doesn't always have to be cheating. But if it has eroded to the point where the romance cannot be rekindled, then it's time to move on. And what you can do to help yourself move on, which is the next thing everybody asks me. It's another very popular topic. How do I get over love? How do I do it? It's very hard. Well, the first thing is to focus on yourself and put yourself first and honor your feelings and have respect for yourself. Because if you're not being treated with respect and love and kindness in your relationship, there's no reason to continue if there's not going to be that change made or a desire for that change to be made. And then you have to let yourself grieve, because the ending of a relationship can be the same as a death to us. It really can. And so you have to let yourself feel those emotions. But the key is, we always say, let the emotions pass through you, flow through you, but then let them go. You don't want to hold on to negative emotions. You can cause all sorts of illness in your body and in your mind and in your heart. And seek support from your support system. And that's why we all need to still have friends. A lot of people let their friends go when they get in a relationship. That's never a good idea. We need to keep our relationships going and not narrow ourselves down to one person. That can be very dangerous. So seek support from friends. Stay busy and do the things that you love, that light you up inside, make you happy. Then you have to forgive, as hard as that is. We have to work on forgiveness and releasing the negative feelings. And then definitely learn from the situation. Maybe do some journaling as to what did I learn? Because we all know this is Earth School. We're here for the experiences. And what do we learn the most from? Our relationships. Very easy to be all spiritual and great and the greatest person ever if you're all by yourself. I mean, that's easy. All by yourself, and you come out and you're a great person. You don't have anybody to fight with. And so you don't fight with anybody because you're just amazing, but you're not being tested. We are tested by our relationships. And
When you're
yes,
talking about journaling
yeah.
and what did I learn, it's very important when a relationship ends for you to think about it in terms of what did I learn instead of what most of us do. What
Mm-hmm.
did I do wrong?
Exactly.
What did I do wrong? Because you're setting yourself up for the next failure and you haven't even met them yet.
Yeah.
But you're just worried about what you did wrong and you start replaying every conflict,
Everything.
every mistake, every misstep, everything. And what did I do wrong? And sometimes it's just not working.
Just wasn't working. Yeah, just not the right combination of people. It can be that. But if we stick to our topic, it can be also because the person can't feel love and they can't
Yeah.
respond to it. So if that happens, you may have to save yourself if that person won't seek help for it or want to make a change. And people, from what I hear in my work, um, the people that are running will come back and it'll be a honeymoon period. And then they'll get scared again if they get too close to the person, and then they'll take off again. And it's just a roller coaster of ups and downs. And it makes the person doubt themselves and it hurts their self esteem, the one that's being left constantly. So it's hard. Yeah. And when that happens, you have to mentally and emotionally detach from a person who is afraid to love. Sometimes you have to do that. You have to decide what works for you in a relationship, as Ken said. And it's time then to remove your partner from the pedestal and realize this is just a human being. I can't expect, anything more than they can give. You have to look at the reality that you're dealing with. Because a lot of people will call me and say, when is he coming back to me?
Huh.
And it's like, yeah, we know that's the number one question. And it might be he's not, that might be the answer because he can't deal. So it's time to just let him be who he is or her, whoever it is. If they can't handle it, they can't handle it. So acknowledge the reality of your situation. You're in love with someone for whom the feeling of loving someone else creates and engenders anxiety instead of joy and celebration. And you don't want that to be your life. You don't want that. You want more for yourself. So you will have to take your power back and view the loved one as having an issue or serious damage in their ability to love deeply. And then you can tell yourself, this isn't my fault. I mean, this poor person can't love deeply. I feel bad for them. Right? Sometimes you have to do that.
It is so important to figure out how to love yourself
Yes, that's the
and
first thing.
and how to like yourself.
Yes, I
And
agree.
there and it's not always easy because we all have stuff we're carrying around. Um Things that, I mean, nobody knows us better than we know ourselves.
Oh,
And
yeah.
the things you've done, you know the things you like that you're embarrassed about, all of those things, and you have to figure out a way to make peace with all of it. This is who you are. And if you did something bad 5 years ago, 10 years ago, 20 years ago, you're not the same person anymore. So you
Yeah.
got to figure that out. And you got to figure out that you're a good person. You're good. You're a catch.
Yeah.
And you have to think about yourself that way because it's going to get really hard to get somebody else to love you if you don't love yourself.
Almost impossible.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it
True.
it might sound silly, but it's true. You got to figure out a way to be comfortable in your own skin, to be able to look yourself in the mirror, and every wart, every wrinkle, everything, every everything that you have done up to this point, and you've got to figure out a way to be better than okay with it.
Yes.
And it's not always easy, but if you want somebody else to love you, you got to love yourself. I hear from so many people who are in a relationship and they say they just don't feel like they deserve the other person,
Yeah.
that they're not good enough.
Yes.
And, it's only going to be a matter of time before the other person says, you know what, you're right. You're not good enough for me.
You're right.
So you are, you are good enough. You just
Mhm.
have to believe that. And you
That's
have
right.
to like those things about yourself and cut yourself some slack over the things that you're still working on because we're all works in progress. We
Oh,
all have stuff.
yeah.
And just figure out what it takes for you to be happy about you.
Hmm.
And
Yeah.
that's the best way to find somebody else who's going to be happy about you too.
Absolutely. I love that. That's very good. Very powerful. So, in part of my, on the job, on the job research, I've been looking into the different types of attachment that we have. Of course, the goal is always to have a secure, healthy attachment
Right.
in the relationship. But I do hear from a lot of people who have an anxious attachment, meaning that it's usually women, honestly, but there are also men who feel it too. But I think it's more women, where they feel like they're constantly, because of their insecurities and not thinking they're quite good enough. They have these fears of abandonment or betrayal. They always think that if they can't talk to their significant other at will, like if they're too slow to answer a text, they must have a new person. or they must be off with someone else. And that's just so sad. So loving yourself can help to alleviate all that and being confident in who you are. That's very important. You have to be healthy for a healthy relationship. That's really right.
Yes.
I mean, there you go, right there. Yeah. And then the runner usually is has an avoidant attachment where they have feelings of being overwhelmed by the other person's needs and the other person's emotions for them, the other person's expectations. So they withdraw from the connection because they also feel like they're not enough. It's this a lot of this goes back to self-esteem. So the best thing you can do for yourself is work on yourself so that you can have a healthy relationship, right? Both parties. And I guess experts would say that sometimes you can redefine a relationship and interact with that person in the areas where you both come together. If you want to keep that person in your life, but I think that takes a great deal of maturity to be able to do that. Because if you're in love with someone and they don't want to really be with you, but you try to do a friendship and still maintain contact, I think that takes an amazing amount of maturity and spiritual growth, right?
It can be, and it can be really tough if
Yeah,
if you if you fall in love with someone who does not have that same feeling back and you try to stay friends with them, it's very difficult for you to be able to move on and find somebody else.
I agree.
I know so many people who have done that kind of thing.
Yeah,
And
I do
and
too.
you can't, you know, I don't want to tell you that, this person who has become such an important friend to you is also going out and dating other people and
That's right.
getting into relationships, and soon they're going to find somebody and you're going to be out.
Out completely because the other woman isn't going to accept you as their
Right.
best friend. I've seen that so many times. And then I found a really interesting little tidbit here, which I do use and give as advice. There are some things you can do if someone that you're in a rather healthy relationship with, but the person is pulling away a little bit. I mean, you might have been going for a year or two, everything's been fine, but the person seems to be pulling away, like they need space. Maybe they're having, like I said, it's usually work issues or something's happened that really threw them off their pins, and they're having a personal issue that's making it hard for them to be present in the relationship. So the first thing you should do if you want to get that person to come to you instead of away from you is don't get upset and be very supportive, as you pointed out, Ken. Send a message like, hey, is everything okay with work? Like, let's say your significant other has disappeared and isn't texting you for 2 or 3 days, and you're in a close relationship, and that can be very alarming. I think I would be worried if that person, something had happened to them. That would be my first thought. But I'm an older person, so that would be my first thought. And then it's but sometimes when work goes wrong or there's something stressful in their lives, it does affect the relationship. Then you can flip the script and ask that person. I mean, once you've established what it is, or if they don't want to tell you what it is, then you can say, maybe we should put this relationship on pause and take some time and then come back and revisit it. And according to the experts, that can panic the other person and make them really think about whether they really want to detach from you or if they just need space, and that's a good idea. And then they can come back.
This is
So,
kind of a love language thing too.
yeah, it is.
If,
Yeah,
if you're calling or texting or whatever and you're not getting any response
yeah,
for whatever reason, it's it's very disrespectful,
yes,
and you need to make sure that they understand that this is important to you.
yes,
I'm not saying, you know, I'm not saying you need to drop everything when you get a text from me, but you can text me back, take 14 seconds to text me back swamped at work. Talk
Mhm.
soon, maybe tomorrow.
Right. It
Something
takes a
like that.
minute to do that. Takes a
Yeah.
minute.
It, and it shows that you respect your partner.
Exactly. And you have to consider if that person doesn't respect you enough to be polite and kind, then maybe that isn't the right person for you.
Yeah,
So
if they're not going to do that in
Mhm.
the early stages of the relationship, it ain't going to get better.
No, never going to get better. That's for sure. I agree. Yep. So we did a lot of good stuff tonight. I think we had a lot of good points. Should
I
we
think so.
ask our guests if they have anything to add?
Yeah.
Okay,
Um,
let's ask Amanda.
Amanda, are you still there?
Yes, hi, I'm still there.
Okay. Did you have anything that you wanted to add or ask us?
Well, I just wanted to add an example of what I've been doing as an act of self-love lately is, and it also allows me to feel my emotions as I practice in my mind consciously saying and feeling the love for this part of myself. I say something like, "Oh, I'm feeling resistance right now," or "I love that part of myself feeling resistance." And then I'm also kind of flipping it to what I would like to feel. So I'll say, "I love that I'm feeling resistance, and I'd like to feel more." Maybe more flow or more ease. So that's just what I wanted to add, just an example of ways I've been loving myself and also letting my emotions just flow through me.
That's beautiful, Amanda.
Thank you.
I love Amanda. I know Amanda. Amanda's an amazing nurse
We met
here
at the
in
Reiki
Houston.
circle. Yeah,
Yes.
Toni's an amazing Reiki practitioner.
Oh, you're so sweet.
And I have another question
Yes.
about this. That book Attached?
Yes.
That book mysteriously arrived in my mailbox about a year ago as a mistake from Amazon. And
Wow.
I had a gut feeling it was, I think it might have been a guy I was dating where he was really into me, but I realized like I just didn't feel the connection and I was trying to force it because he
Right.
was so into me. Like I felt I didn't find him attractive enough. And oh no, when I was kissing him, I was thinking of somebody else. And I realized,
Right.
so finally I had the courage to end it. But I'm wondering if that book came from that guy or but he wouldn't have known my unit number. He just dropped me off
Oh,
a couple of times. If you have any insights on that book, I'm just
I
curious.
feel like it's your angels. I'll test it with my pendulum,
Mhm.
but I feel like it was a lucky coincidence, like they say.
Okay.
Okay,
Yeah.
so was it from the man that Amanda was dating? Did the book come from that man? No.
No, it was just a
Okay. Yeah.
coincidence.
So, well, I think it was your guides and angels. Did the guides and angels send it? I think they did.
They did. Yeah.
Yeah. It's
Yeah.
saying yes. Yes.
Oh,
Yeah.
wonderful.
Yeah.
And
It's
then
amazing.
awesome. If I could ask another
Of
question,
course.
like maybe I do ask I need to do this more often, but sometimes I ask my angels to be with me. And, it's amazing. I'm going to do it more often. And I'm wondering, Toni, if any guidance is coming through from the angels or anything important that I need to know
Okay.
that you're sensing.
I'm going to pull a card for you if that's okay.
I would love that.
Okay. Let me do that. We'll ask the guardian. Actually, I want the other deck. I have another deck that's also got guardian angel. And we're going to ask the angels, is there anything that Amanda needs to know?
Yeah, anything like really important or anything maybe that would help my just help me feel more love for myself or
Yes,
whatever it is.
I love it.
It would enhance my life in the highest possible way.
Absolutely. I've got the card ask.
Oh,
Ask from the
ooh,
guides and angels. So basically, the message is ask us to help you in this situation, and we will immediately go to work on your behalf. We're governed by many universal laws, and among them is the free will that allows you to make your own choices and decisions. So we patiently await your requests. So ask them
ooh,
to step in and help you. I mean, every day, Amanda, at work in every way. I know that you're very connected and you're very
Yeah.
spiritual. And I believe you're, oh, also energy work. Are you still doing your Reiki?
Oh, you know what? I need to do more self Reiki. I do meditation, and that's kind of my energy work where I visualize light. Um,
Yeah,
so yeah, maybe I think it would be helpful more time meditating, and then also just in any situation, I can
yeah,
just kind of journal about it and kind of give it to the angels and say, look, I'd really like help in this situation. And
perfect. And then also do your Reiki because that keeps everything humming. But you are probably the most healthy person I have ever worked on in my life.
oh,
I
thank you.
mean, literally, I always say that.
Oh,
She's an
that means a
amazing
lot.
specimen of beauty and health, this
Oh,
girl.
thank you, Toni. You have really kind words.
No, it's true, you are. And thank you so much for coming
Oh,
today.
thank you for having me. Hope to see you
Okay.
at Reiki Circle soon.
Yes. Now don't go anywhere. Ken, are you prepared to do anything with the jukebox tonight?
I am. I had
Okay, good.
we didn't really introduce ourselves.
Yeah.
Um
Oh, we
it's
forgot.
and it's too late now. But
Yeah. Who are we?
who are we? Tony, who are you?
Well, it's okay. It's too late. Go ahead.
Okay. Um I
So
uh
crazy, lady.
I refer to myself as a music intuitive because I get a lot of my information from music, and I have psychic jukebox playlists. And tonight's is number 4, and it has 5,499 songs on it. And I started it playing before we started this evening, and asked my angels and guides and your angels and guides to give me the song that's for you. And when we started talking to you, Amanda, the song that was playing was Roberta Flack, Will You Still Love Me Tomorrow? Do you know that
Oh,
one?
Oh, I'll look it up.
it's
Okay.
a good
It's an
Oh,
older
that's a
song. I
good
think
one.
Carole King wrote it,
it's
and
Carol King. Yeah.
lots of singers have done it since then. But this makes me think of, are you in a relationship now?
Nothing serious. I
Okay.
had went on like maybe one first date, and I'm not sure if it's going to turn into I could see it going to a friendship, maybe a romance. I don't know yet. Um, and then I had another guy that I went on like one date in 2023 and then one date in 2024, like message me again. But he's been traveling for work and we were supposed
Oh,
to get together, but he said he went on a bender drinking. So I didn't respond because that
Oh,
concerned me. So
yeah.
he's a little younger. So I'm like, I don't know what's going to
yeah.
happen. But when I was with him on the date, I felt so connected to my heart and in the present moment. And I just loved our conversation. So I mean, I don't know. I don't have any, I'm not really, dating anyone seriously at the present, just on the apps, mostly first dates, getting to know a lot of people, practicing like emotional vulnerability and practicing like loving myself on the date. If something feels out of alignment, I say, oh, I love that I'm with this man and it feels out of alignment, and that helps. And just kind of, it's been a lot of practicing honesty. There was one guy I went out with for 3 dates, but he wanted like 5 kids and he was younger. So
Oh,
we just weren't in alignment.
yeah.
And we had an honest conversation. So I'm like, oh, thank you for being honest. It feels
Yeah.
good to be this honest with someone. So I
Yeah.
just practiced. I used it as a practice date, and I'm like, that's okay. I trust that there's someone for me in perfect divine timing. And so yeah.
Yes.
Well, this song says to me a lot of basically kind of what you said. Uh,
Yeah.
a lot of times when we're dating, we fall into that trap of will you still love me tomorrow? And we put a lot of pressure on the relationship and the tomorrows that may come. And I always think of Seinfeld. Did you ever watch the Seinfeld series?
Oh,
I
yeah.
saw bits and pieces of it.
Okay. It was all the relationship things with Jerry Seinfeld were so ridiculous because he would pick whatever the tiniest of flaws were and magnify it, and it would become such a huge thing. And it's funny when he does it, but it's also something that I think a lot of us do. And when we put that kind of pressure on a relationship, I remember there was one where she ate her peas one pea at a time, and
I
some reason
remember
that
that one.
bothered him.
Yeah.
And it's silly, but we can put that kind of pressure on
Yeah.
a first date, where you barely know each other's names and you're learning about each other. And in your head, you're going through all of the possible things that are wrong and what's going to happen 10, 20, 30 dates from now. And it can be very self-defeating. And it sounds like you are so healthy and on the right
She is.
track
I told you that.
of
She's
not
amazing.
doing that kind of thing. And
I actually felt pressure from a guy I went on a first date with. Like sometimes I go out with some men and I feel like, I mean, I appreciate the honesty where they're like wanting to get married and wanting to have kids, but I'm wondering if it's more sometimes I feel the pressure from the guys I go out with and I feel like I
yeah,
can't breathe. It might be that. I don't
you
know.
know,
Mhm.
society jokes that women have this biological clock that's ticking and that they're all looking for Mr. Right.
Yeah.
And, there's something to be said for just enjoying the moment and being with Mr. Right now.
Yeah.
And
Mhm.
and that's okay. And that lets you figure out things about yourself and figure out things about what you're looking for. And it sounds like that's more or less exactly what you're doing.
And enjoying the moment. That's a good
Yeah,
reminder. That's like also like I think I remember having a conversation on a few dates about this where it's that foundation in the present moment if you want the future anyway. So it's kind of a paradox. Like you have to be in the present moment if you want a long-term relationship anyway. So there's nowhere to be but the present.
That's right.
exactly.
I love it.
So if anything, this is just kind of validation that you're on the right track, doing the right thing for you.
Awesome. Awesome. That's great.
I love it. And you are, sweetie. Thank you so much for calling or for
Thank you
coming in.
so much.
We're so glad you
I'm
came.
so glad you hosted this show.
Aw, that's great. Thank you, honey.
Thank you.
Right. We should ask Steve if he has anything to add. I don't know if he does or any questions, right?
There he is. Hi,
There
Steve.
he is.
I
Hi.
don't have any questions. I um, heard a lot of scenarios that I've been through over my lifetime with relationships, and so it was good to hear somebody else talk about them instead of me talking myself about them.
That's good. Yep.
So
Yeah. Would
You
you would
know,
you like us to give you cards and a song tonight?
you know, it's funny, Steve, that you say that. When I got married to Lisa, I became a stepdad, so I got two kids who were almost teenagers, and I had never had kids before, didn't have any idea what I was doing, and was just was not prepared. And I remember going to some um event at their school and hearing other parents talk about some of the same problems that I had. And it didn't solve anything, but it made me feel so much better knowing that I wasn't the only one, that there wasn't something defective or wrong with me, that this is just how it is being a parent. Kids behave this way. And I
Hmm.
had no idea. And it sounds like you were experiencing something similar listening to some of the scenarios we were talking about relationships.
Yeah, that everybody's got the same issues. That's true.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's true. Well, I have a card for you tonight, Steve. It's called Nothing. There is nothing for you to worry about. That's a good card. It says you are safe and the situation is under the perfect control of divine providence and universal order. Only infuse loving thoughts and emotions into the situation to ensure that the highest possible outcome flows effortlessly to and through you. Okay, and I'm sure Ken has a song for you.
I do. It's
Yeah.
hang on just a second.
Yeah. Oh,
Sorry.
that's
Uh it's a song by the band REM called Suspicion. Was not a hit as far as I know. So unless you're a big REM fan, you probably don't know this song.
No, I don't.
Okay. Um
I know a lot of worthless music trivia, but I
not
worked.
that one.
hey, that's not worthless.
Yeah, well, I worked in radio in the late '60s, so
Oh,
lots and lots of stuff from that period of time. But REM, I'm not familiar with.
Well, this is just about letting not getting bogged down in anything too deep and letting your imagination do what it's going to do. Let imagination drive. Can't you see I need nothing too deep? Imagination come alive. So this is a time
ooh,
for you to just, you know, not overthink things, just sort of let yourself be and delve into something creative or just allow your imagination to do its thing. Does
yeah,
that
it
make sense?
Mhm.
does. Very good. I like that.
Well, thank you for joining us tonight, Steve. We appreciate it.
Yeah. Thanks, Tony.
Thank you. We're glad that you both came. This was lovely.
Yeah. Yes, we are. And thanks to everybody who's out there listening. We really appreciate it. I mentioned at the beginning all the ways you can connect with us if you have questions, and we will do our best to be back here 2 weeks from tonight. I'll have plenty of NyQuil between now and then, so I should be better.
Yes.
And Tony, as always, thank you so much for giving up a chunk of your Tuesday evening.
Thank you. I wouldn't be anywhere else. This was lovely.
Thank you. Thanks again, everybody, for listening. And remember to tell those close to you that you love them. And we will talk to you again in a couple weeks.
Absolutely. Bye, everybody.